because at the end of the day, I still want to be able I don't dislike George Washington. I don't dislike even some of the most racist people in history. But I want to know their history, but I also want to know not only that, you know, hey, they were whatever, but I also want to know about the Shirley Chisholms. I also want to know about the Frederick Douglass. And not even Nat Turner. I want to know more about Nat Turner than him just being some revolutionary. I want to know the Nat Turner that was out in the fields. I want to know the Nat Turner that grew up as a kid. I don't want to know just the narrative. You know, tuned in, start begin, sir. 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 Tuned in, start begin, sir.
Listen to the words of a woman. Listen to the words of a woman. Listen to me.
Mother's advice.
Back in the day, me and mama, we were tight. On them streets at 12, chasing dreams every night. Never thought I'd miss her face, but the struggle was real. No woman could replace her, that's the deal. Suspended from school, always causing a scene. But the big boys breaking rules, living a dream. We were poor, yeah, poorer than the rest. Blaming mama when life put us to the test. Now I'm locked up thinking about the mess I made. Mama's love, even from afar, never did pay. Elementary days, who knew I'd see the pen? Running from the law. Yeah, again and again. But mama never gave up, she kept me in line. Even when I strayed, she stayed on my mind. A queen in my eyes, through thick and thin, raising me right, making sure I'd win.
Pendulums swing under domes of sweet sacrifice. They bear circumstance of urban tales. Only if you dare to dwell. The power of motherhood, love we know so well.
Listen to the words of a woman. Hear her speak.
I love it, Mom.
Listen to the words of a woman. Listen to me. Listen to the words of a 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 woman.
You're always going to have opposition in the middle of the battle. But are you going to be up for the battle? Don't even engage in the conversation.
Mother's advice.
Listen to the words of a woman.
Gentle words with a soft voice. Under serious tones of critical cautionary tales to heed.
Pendulums swing under domes of sweet sacrifice. They bear circumstance of urban tales. Only if you dare to
One can
dwell.
only dream to have the mother I have grown to admire so greatly. Morals and character brought out in me. I am my mother's child, as you can see. You can feel and hear my warmth and glow. It's 'cause of where I came from. A mother's advice. Lots of water ice and matchbox cars. All the stars in the skies can't match the love from my mother's eyes.
That's it. I would even try and explain nothing or these people are angry. That person's angry. Everybody's angry about something. And that's it at the end of the day. But not let it
Replace her, that's the deal.
Mother's advice.
A queen in my eyes, through thick and thin.
Mother's advice. Mother's advice. Mother's advice. Mother's
Queen in
advice.
my eye, a queen in my eye. The queen in my eye, a woman could replace her.
Do not let it get yourself down because you feel guilty about not fulfilling someone else's expectations of what you should have done, or you know what you needed to do and should have done, but you can't feel guilty about the else's expectations for what they want to or what they thought to have. But just know that you both
Hard grind. From a tender age, she taught me how to grind. She taught me how to mind. Taught me how to use my mind. Taught me I can change my life. A storm all to myself. Better hold on tight. Mother's advice.
Listen to the words of a woman. Listen to the words of a woman. Listen to the
Pendulums swing under domes of sweet sacrifice.
They bear circumstances of urban tales.
Only if you dare to dwell. The power of motherhood.
A love,
A love we know so well.
Listen to the words of
I love it, man.
Listen to the words of Listen to the words of
Mother's advice. Mother's advice.
So you're always going to have opposition in the middle of the battle. But are you going to be up for the battle?
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, 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 good morning. How's everybody doing this morning? I hope fine and dandy. I really didn't know, today's May 13th, 2024. I really didn't know where to go with this today. But I decided to go in a direction since the legislative session is dwindling down. I thought I would talk about, things that are going on in Minnesota pertaining to the Equal Rights Amendment, as well as ranked choice voting and the Minnesota Migration Act. A little over about an hour and a half, the Minnesota legislator will be a representative, Senate and House, will be voting today on certain bills. And I want to dig into that. But first, I want to talk about Minneapolis. In less than 3 weeks, on June 1st, we will be doing Operation Hug the Block. We plan on starting on 36th Penn. And from there, we're going to show people, not even just show it, but this program has worked in larger cities, in Philadelphia, primarily. And that's where we got this from. So we got this from a man named Jamal Johnson. I interviewed him last year. He started Operation Hug the Block, but also Stop Killing Us. And very, former veteran. He's a brilliant man. And, he's got some legislation passed out there. And that's what me and Marcus and Black Lives the Streets plan on doing, is showing people that, when people are invested, and I mean invested in their communities, that there can be a change, there can be a difference. So that's really what I wanted to start off with this morning, is talking about Minneapolis, talking about Operation Hug the Block a little bit, but also talking about some things that are going on currently there, which we all know, violence right now is at all-time, not going to say at all-time high because it's been higher, but the violence is in an abundance. And it's something that we definitely do need to discuss. But first I want to play this. This is the Minneapolis City Council. This is from April 29th this year. And
what you're going to hear is about violence interrupters in Minneapolis and their programs, right? So I'm just only going to play about 5, maybe 6 minutes. But who you're going to hear speaking is council member, that's Katie Cashman. But you also will be hearing Jeremiah Ellison, who is Ward 5 in Minneapolis. You'll be hearing Latrice Vitaw, who is in Ward 4, as well as Robin Walmsley, who is Ward 2. Now, these are all 3 Black. She's white. But the other ones, when it comes to talking about the Violence Interrupter program, are all Black. So I want people to pay attention to their words.
What's NRP?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'll ask my colleagues about that.
All right.
This game, you're not ready for it.
All right, I have Councilmember Ellison back in queue.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify one thing. Yeah, the department, especially after 2020, when I described the sort of ill-defined scope of service, the mission creep, all that kind of stuff, those things were happening, but they were happening from outside of the department. They were demands on the department that the department did not want to do, did not desire to do, did not ask to do. So when I say that there needs to be a standard, when I'm talking about Cure Violence and John Jay and the Blueprint Institute, things like crowd control, quasi-police work, all these things that the department was being asked to do kind of for several years fell outside of any of those standards that we had. So I 100% know and believe that community members are confused about what the mission of the department is, because once the department was created, there were demands to do work outside of their scope of service. And instead of saying no, they were trying to be good, partners within the enterprise and say, okay, we'll do stuff that's outside of the scope of service. But if we've got contractors doing things that are outside of what we've taught them to do, how are we supposed to ask them to keep data on that? How are we supposed to ask them to keep data on crowd control, right? They're doing the work. They're out there. We got to pay them for the work that we're asking them to do, but it is outside of the scope of service. What I feel like should be happening is that now that we're out of crisis, right? Because you can always excuse, okay, look, we didn't do that. We didn't manage that the best. We asked people to do things that they didn't want to do because we were in crisis. But now that we're out of the crisis, what I feel like should be happening is that the lines around the scope of service of the department should be drawn firmly and never crossed again. Instead, I feel like the fact that the lines were crossed initially has become kind of an excuse for the scope of service to not be defined, or an excuse to abandon some of the pedagogy that the department should have been operating from the beginning. And that makes me nervous, because to me it starts to create a dynamic where, I'll use an analogy. If I buy a piece of furniture and there are instructions on how to assemble it, I can try to build it the way I think it should be built, but if it falls apart because I wasn't following the directions, that's on me. That's the position that I think that the city enterprise and the administration got in with the previous iteration of OVP. OVP was supposed to be assembled and built one way, and we did not follow directions. And I guess I'm asking, like, what's our commitment to follow directions? And what I'm noticing is it feels like there's not that commitment. It feels like it's, oh, those things didn't work. When it's not that they didn't work, it's that we didn't do them. We demanded that the department do other things that we thought were more valuable. Crowd control comes to mind because there was a lot of that, and it absolutely violates the scope of service of OVP 100%. And so that's what I mean by, how do we make sure that we are maintaining a standard I'm not saying that the standard was that there was a mythical time when the standards were perfectly maintained. I'm saying that, like, how do we learn from that mistake and not learn the wrong lesson? And the wrong lesson to me would be, well, because we didn't do what we were supposed to do, let's continue to not do what we should do. That would be the wrong lesson to take from that time period. So that's all, and that's, just to clarify and, answer some of the questions that I think came up with Councilmember Vital, because I do appreciate her perspective. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ellison. And just want to double check, Councilmember Vital back in queue. And also, are you back in queue, Councilmember Cashman? Okay.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Ellison. I definitely understand what you're saying, but I will say I'm one of the people who have voted against contracts in my ward, and it was because I was told we're using the cure violence model, and that is the only thing we're doing. And your ideas of what you think we should be doing is not a part of the work we're doing. And so I've even had budget amendments to get contracts for other groups to do things that my community wants, because I felt like there was things that, they just stuck to with these particular, not GVI contracts, but the violence interrupter contracts in particular. Like there was a standard every single time from the moment I got down here to City Hall and asked about, like, well, shouldn't they be doing this? Or it was always no. That's not the models we're using. We need to come up with other programming and other funding streams, because this is the specific work they're going to do. And, like, your ideas need to be taken somewhere else. So I don't have experience with the program changing over time. I have experience with, this is the group that is assigned to your ward, and this is what they do. And if you want to do something else, you need to develop some different, work with the Office of Violence Prevention at the time or whomever to develop something different.
I chose St. George's University School of Medicine because at the time that I wanted to go in.
Thank you. I just put myself back in queue because, I think this is why I'm really looking forward to this meeting with the mayor's office, also getting follow-up about the status of our national partners, because I think there is this thing where, did we really do fidelity to the models themselves? And also, what is our status with the national partners around these standards? Which I know previous leadership of OVP, which then became NSD, constantly asked us for additional resources and staffing and infrastructure support so that they could actually do their fidelity to these national standards, so that we can have consistent outcomes that show the progress and the effectiveness of this model. And there's been continuous interruptions. Some of those interruptions is, I'm going to name, not full buy-in from the administration around this model. And also, again, the lack of support for the model to be successful. And all of these things are putting us in a predicament where we don't have a high standards of evaluation regarding our NSD programming and department as a whole. It's not clear what is our proper processes as it pertains to, maintaining critical partnerships like those at the national level. And all of those things are necessary if we're really going to maintain and ensure that integrity is embedded into all of the services we provide in NSD. And, I think it's important that we have this presentation and continuous conversations, because when we don't have those things, it then compromises our ability to do effective oversight, which could then lead to conditions for lawsuits, which we have had with NSD. And then the further, wasting of financial resources, and then continuous damages to the city's credibility as it pertains to our, area of unarmed safety services. And all of this combined, leads to conditions of us then collectively undermining the importance of this work of building a comprehensive public safety system. So there is lots to be done around this. I'm glad that, again, meetings are going to be had. The city auditor will be supporting the work around a formal investigation and external investigation. around what is happening. And then Councilmember Cashman, you mentioned the audit, which we did approve as part of the audits committee's plan last cycle. This is part of their work, is to continue doing assessments, risk assessments of, patterns and practices within NSD. And often I just want to let folks know, those are technical recommendations. Those often are for operational corrective acts, as opposed to proposals around policy when we do get those type of findings. But those are going to be necessary for us, again, to be able to do that effective oversight. So audit is absolutely at the table, and there is an ongoing one. But with that, I don't see anyone else in queue. So with that, I will ask the clerks to receive and file that presentation. Thank you, Commissioner.
So that, for me, I know a lot of people are new here, and what you'll find here is I'm about education. I like to educate the people. Everybody might not agree with me because I see the issue, especially from growing up in a bigger city. I grew up in Minneapolis. I love Minneapolis. I love Minnesota, but it's become a liberal hellhole, a shithole, to be honest. We've literally allowed, because first of all, and this is one thing that I talk to people all the time out in different communities, people complain about our education system, about how the kids, they don't even know what a quarter past 9 is. You know what I'm saying? They're like, what does that mean? And it's like, damn, really? Or they don't even do cursive anymore. They're getting rid of spelling. And it's like, how are we not saying anything, but yet they'll teach our kids that if they're a boy, it's okay to be a girl, or if they're a girl, it's okay to be a boy. Like, and I get that at the end of the day, I don't have no issues with that, right? But let's wait till they're an adult, because we're becoming in a society. I see a lot of people, and that's the crazy part. And that's one thing that Ellison brought up when he was speaking, is that, when Violence Interrupters, the program first started, they were more about crowd control. It wasn't about being out in the streets interrupting violence, right? And that's one thing that me and Marcus noticed in these contracts. There wasn't no oversight. There wasn't any metrics, and they were all repetitive. They were all their mission statements, their visions. It was basically all repetitive. You had nonprofits and groups that were all doing the same thing, getting paid to do the same thing. But yet we don't see any results on the streets, because this is my thing of it is, right? And that's why you've literally we don't have any oversight. We don't have any metrics in Minnesota, because if we did, we wouldn't be seeing the fraudulent behavior from, exactly. Right on point, that schools are teaching kids to let computers be their memory. And that's facts. We are literally, I will say this, there's good parts to technology, and there's bad parts, right? The good part is that kids can do their own research, right? Because I'll tell you right now is that what I was taught in school and what I know now as an adult, a lot of that shit isn't true. It's not, about Christopher Columbus, because now I know that there was people even here before Christopher Columbus, and that there was already people here, the Native Americans, and that this was called Turtle Island. I understand, you know what I'm saying? But we didn't learn that in school, and as an adult, they sit there and they put the, Roots in front of us, the movie Roots, Alex Haley. And then to come to find out as an adult, that was, some of that is true, and a majority of it was made up. Our not Malcolm, but Martin, they push Martin Luther King down our throats. And to come to find out that the Civil Rights Act is the reason why we're dealing with the issues that we're dealing with now. But people don't want to have that discussion. They don't want to have that debate. And that's what frustrates me. you know, and that's the reason why I want to educate my community, because my community matters to me. I know it doesn't matter to a lot of people because they would prefer to see the chaos, all the violence that's going on, because it helps them. And that's sad. That's sad as hell. That literally we have people that make money off of our pain and suffering. And people tell me that that's not crazy. So I want to continue, and I want to show you just one more. This is from Fox 9 last night. And again, I want you to listen to the words that these people are saying, because they're so contradictory, right? They're hypocrites, especially when it comes to Vital. She says one thing and then you do another. It's beyond ridiculous to me. We literally have to start paying attention to what is going on around us, because if we don't, we're going to get so far left behind with immigration, with because that's the one thing. We have all these people coming in, right? And I don't hate them. I love everybody, but we should take care of our own people first, because I see, you know, our boards are open, you know, I see, you know, the fear mongering about the job market. But then I see so many people that here they don't even have jobs, or can't, they have hurdles to get jobs, but yet we don't want to take care of them. And those people who are Americans and can work, but because they might be a felon, or they might be maybe uneducated for the position, but yet have that experience. And we overlook them people. And we got to stop doing that. We got to stop doing that. And then they want to put in affordable housing that's not affordable. Because if people don't understand what these 2030 plans, these 2040 plans, you know, a lot of these are to turn inner cities, major cities, into 15-minute cities, you know, like Rochester, Minnesota. It's crazy. I definitely, you know, that's one thing I will not disagree with, right? But we haven't even helped American descendants of slavery, who helped build this country, our ancestors, a lot of our ancestors, right? Because America has robbed, cheated, and stole, killed. We look at the summer of 1919. There's so many stories of our ancestors, right? I talk about my Uncle Willie all the time, Willie Francis. You know, he was somebody that was wrongfully convicted and executed not once, but twice. And he didn't do it. There's plenty of stories like that, because that's what got me up off the couch, George Floyd. Just like there's some name along the way that got somebody off the couch, regardless if it was Rodney King, if it was Emmett Till, if it was, you know, names before that. You know, if it was somebody that was close, there's millions of names. I don't know every name. You know, I know thousands of names, but I don't know the millions of people that have been injustice, right? I don't know, because there's been land stolen, there's been wrongfully convictions, there's been murders with no type of accountability, no type of transparency. So, I mean, it's a tough road. But I do agree with you. Immigrants have helped build this country all across the world. They definitely do. They lied to divide us. I definitely agree. I definitely agree with that. And I think that's one thing that we need to educate ourselves on, and have to stop believing that everything that mainstream media puts out here, and just to read for ourselves, because a lot of it is to pump fear into us, and to program us, and to indoctrinate us into a certain way. So
when the chair of a committee publicly says that a department has fraud, waste, and abuse, you better have something to back it up. I'm sorry, I'm talking. I am providing context. Please, decorum, and please, it's one mic. No, you're not talking about decorum. Councilmember Vita. Period.
Sparks fly at this afternoon's Minneapolis City Council meeting as members debate funding to maintain neighborhood safety.
And issue alleged fraud in that department.
Last week, Councilmember Robin Wansley said publicly she was concerned with reports she was getting about fraud and mismanagement. Fox 9's Karen Scullin joining us now with the latest on the ongoing controversy tonight. Karen.
Well, much of the fraud accusation swirls around contracts NSD has with various vendors who do group violence intervention and violence interrupter work. Well, today, a vote to approve contract amendments turned into a fiery debate.
I've had a lot of contact with constituents who are concerned about us continuously funding these contracts without knowing what's going on.
Councilmember Latricia Vita says she's getting calls and emails ever since Councilmember Robin Wansley fired things up last week when she accused the Neighborhood Safety Department of fraud and mismanagement and called for an investigation. It's primarily about contract work with various outreach groups, accountability on how city funding is being used, and also vendors not being paid at all.
Based off of information that I have received from community members as well as vendors who have acted as whistleblowers, it warranted an investigation and thus a submittal of a claim of both fraud, waste, and abuse specifically to the city auditor's office.
Wansley said there have been various meetings on the issue, but not all council members were invited. Today, council was voting on increasing money to 4 vendors. In all, these 4 would now get about $1.5 million. Vita called on Wansley to provide proof of fraud or apologize. She did not.
People are watching. We're about to make a decision on a lot of money with no clarity on what's happening in this department.
It turns out the city auditor has been looking into NSD since the fall, so that has been ongoing.
What was new and unusual this cycle was Councilmember Wansley bringing this up as chair of her committee this cycle, but then there was no public follow-up or follow-up for us or the public, and we take things set up here seriously.
Council President Elliott Payne indicated there could be a meeting with all council at some point to clarify what's happening. Vita wanted to delay the vote 2 weeks until she gets more information. She was not alone.
Council President Payne, this is urgent. This is urgent. This was all over the news, in the paper. People are talking about this. We need to treat this as an urgent matter.
The more we talk about this, the more it does start to feel like a conspiracy of some sort here. But the fact of the matter is we all need the same information.
Now, the vote to delay ended with a 5-5 split, with Vita, Koski, Jenkins, Palmisano, and Rainville voting for the delay. But without a majority, it failed. Council went on to approve all 4 contracts. Vita was the only no vote on 3 of the contracts, but did vote yes on 1 of them. In the newsroom, Karen Scullin, Fox 9.
So, yeah, that's Minneapolis right now. But I will tell you like this, is that Walmsley wasn't lying. They ain't lying. There's a lot of groups in Minneapolis that if you look at their contracts, it's not about violence interruption. It's not about boots on the ground, intervening, preventing. It's not about that. And all people have to do is go out into the streets and talk to people, right? And that's one thing that we're going to show on Operation Hug the Block, right? So I want to show you something else, and then we're going to get into this legislation. But this is the print for a safer Philadelphia. I'm not going to show everything, but this is something that Operation Hug the Block and SKU Stop Killing Us, and it was presented by Curtis Jones Jr. So this is basically everything, the blueprint for a safer Philadelphia. Education in the school of prison pipeline, poverty in the criminal justice system,
combating the threat of illegal guns and increasing the closure rate of homicides, addressing mental health, alternatives to incarceration, law enforcement, use of technology to combat crime, collaboration with the private sector, with boots on the ground, credible messengers, youth involvement in the criminal justice system, drill music in the music industry, combating specific types of crime, data, combating institutional white racism, crafting a positive public messaging campaign. So there was a lot of things that, and you are correct, Damon, that yes, our government lies to go to war. That's what we're seeing right now all over the world, and mainstream media is a part of that. You know, they're a part of the narrative, the propaganda, all under the guise that we need to be over there doing something. But at the end of the day, it's more about dollars and cents than right or wrong. But that is, so they broke it down into a multifaceted solution, because it is a multifaceted solution. You know, you just can't focus on one part of, you know, gun violence, or let's say just violence period, or crime, because that still has to do with mental health. It still has to do with, you know, job market. It has to do with education. It has to do with a whole lot of things that we need to literally wear like a glove when we're focused on this, because it's not just one thing. It comes down to a lot of things of where, you know, just like I was reading this morning, and I'm about to go off base here a little bit, but not really. I was reading an article by the Sahan Journal about charter schools, you know, and are they good, are they bad, and, you know, the oversight, and I don't even know anymore. You see so much bullshit about this, you know, and that, and it's like, you know, at the end of the day, I tell people to get informed, understand of what's put in front of you, read the fine print, because that's where we go wrong. We don't read everything. They take out the great parts and leave the bullshit, you know, out of it. And then that's the part that we don't ever hear about. Is always we always hear about the good parts of a bill, but never, you know, we never read the fine print. We never read the fine print. Ever do we read the fine print. And that's a problem. That is a huge problem, that we don't read the fine print. I wanted to go, before I go into talking about the legislation, I wanted to talk about one that was passed just last week. And I asked, so here, I'll go to it. Let's bump it up a little bit. I asked Mark Korn, and I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, Mark, your last name. I asked him, I was curious about his vote against the Minnesota African American Family Preservation Act. Mind sharing your reasoning. So he responded, and I appreciate it. Very informative, and that's what I literally wanted to show, right, was his responses. So he says, "Hi, yes, Chaz. The AFPA highlights real challenges, mostly focused on out-of-home placement of children and the foundation of a nuclear family. If you measure these disparities based on socioeconomic standards, you will find the system treats everyone poorly." Very correct. He said, number two, the AFPA doesn't begin to address or change the root causes of why the child protective services processes have such poor outcomes. At the event at Shiloh Temple just this last Sunday, which I attended, The bill author and advocates discussed many issues. They even highlighted the same efforts some 30 years ago when a bill was passed to address this issue. What changed based on that bill? Nothing. Everyone involved has a legitimate and real claim against our government. The reasons vary drastically. Number 4, the conversation on Sunday talked about how men have abandoned their families, the education system, the foundation for opportunity, etc. None of these issues are addressed in the AFPA. I truly care about these failures to our society. Thus, I attend these meetings. Number 5, the reality, the AFPA as is a vehicle to pander to the Black population, grows more nonprofits, grants, for which there are hundreds of millions of dollars already targeted at each of these issues, and brings in more hypothetical citizens, activists through task force. 6, see the pattern, more of the same, with more poor outcomes for the very same people who are experiencing these hardships. I talked to Bobby Joe Champion before the bill was passed and expressed my desire to help him make the changes necessary to improve the outcomes. Number 7, he likely won't take my offer again because the DFL cannot and will not do anything that appears to threaten their state and county public union organization. Number 1, donors. The solution must break down and re-examine how all government services are delivered. Now, I want people to understand this is a Republican. This isn't a Democrat. This is a Republican. He said that number 8, final. I know this was long, but I guess, yeah. So he literally broke it down, and I agreed with his vote. They are definitely worthless. I agreed with Mark's statement on a lot of it because of the simple fact of, and I explained my in a tweet. First of all, this is a part. Let's see. I don't know if you guys can see that. I gotta go back to. Okay, you guys can. So this part right here is subdivision 4, African American child, means a child having origins in Africa, including a child of 2 or more races who has at least one parent with origins in Africa. Whether a child or parent has origins in Africa is based upon self-identification or identification of the child's origins by the parent or guardian. I said for me, its loose definition of African American child opens the floodgates for others to benefit, diluting resources meant for those who truly need them. We need policies that target real needs, not ones that inadvertently sideline the very communities they claim to help. And I stand on that. I still stand on this statement. You know, when you look at these bills, especially the Minnesota Migration Act, because self-identification is also written in there. And it's like, what's up with all this self-identification shit? So it's the same thing of self-identifying when it comes to sexuality, because we're born one way, but we can self-identify as something else, right? So if a person is white, but then self-identifies as African-American or Black, they would literally be able to be African-American, because under this, it's about self-identification. People got to understand what that is. And they have to actually, you know what? Let's Google it. Let's look it up. Self-identification. Self-identification definition. Let's see. What does it say? All right. So, what is self-identification? The attribution of certain characteristics or qualities to oneself. I don't know if that's really the one we're looking for, but let's see. Self-identification. No definition. That's crazy as hell to me, though. Oh, so they can literally self-identify. So I think this. Here, I'm going to share this. Here's a response to self-identification. In response, Gaines took to social media to blast Kevin Trudeau's policies, which allow the Canadian Powerlifting Union (CPU) to have a gender self-identification trans inclusion policy announced earlier this year that allows males to participate in women competitions based on gender alone. So that's what I mean about the self-identification, for the simple fact that you can literally, I call it, no, let me stop. Don't do that, Chaz. I was going to call it something, and I better stop. So that for me is what I guess bugged me to so much. But let's get into the equal rights amendment, because that one was really, really, for me, was icing on the cake. Because this bill is all about guaranteeing equal rights under the law for everyone in Minnesota, which we already have. Everybody has equal rights under the Constitution, right? So why do we got to keep on writing more amendments, regardless of race, color, national origin, ancestry, disability, or sex? But what it's really about is leveling the playing field and stamping out discrimination once and for all. Some folks are saying it's just another government power grab. That's what I believe. To me, that it is a power grab. You have the author behind this bill. These are people that self-identify as a woman, and the other one self-identifies as an American, which they're not. Which she's not. He is. She is, but he's not. Bless up, Mike. Bless up. You know what? Thank you for that, Damone, because I think a lot of you have, even with our census is changing and people don't even realize that there's not even, we're not even going to know who's white anymore. We're not even going to know who's Hispanic, because literally if we're allowing self-identification, when it even comes to race, we're screwed, man. It just opens up the floodgates for so much more. And people don't even understand when we're talking about being replaced, a big replacement. And people will say, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. No, it's not. Grand Rising. No, it's not a conspiracy theory, when we can literally show you that they are replacing us. And not just as people, but as voters, that's what people don't even understand, right? You have the Democrats pandering to voters right now, because if they didn't, they wouldn't be making all this legislation to make it easier for the people that are crossing the border to vote. They wouldn't be making legislation to bypass certain loopholes. But we won't even do that for reparations. We won't even do that for police brutality. We won't even do that for the fucked up education system or the healthcare system, right? Because people talk about that all day, but we don't ever want to talk about solutions. It's always throw more money at it, but we don't ever want to solve it. Because I'll tell you right now that most communities are being gentrified, all under the disguise of climate change. Yeah. Nope. She was out there. So that's how it literally it goes. And same thing with Rochester, Minnesota, right? The same thing with North Minneapolis. They're putting a train through North Minneapolis. In Rochester, they're doing the DMC. If people don't know what that is, that's the Destination Medical Center. And they're putting in parking ramps, parking lots, apartments, but they're getting rid of business. They're getting rid of single family homes, right? And people don't even understand that because it's all they promote it to a community that are the stakeholders. But because the poor community were undereducated, right? Right? And we don't understand what they're doing, or we don't have the attention span to pay attention, or we don't have the comprehension skills, or they tell us one thing and we believe it, right? Vote the lesser of two evils. That's what I've been told for years. But who's really the lesser of two evils? To me, they're both the same evil. So if it's the lesser of two evils, I would go with an independent candidate. I mean, am I right or am I wrong? Wouldn't the wise choice, if we're going to go for the lesser of two evils, wouldn't it be go independent instead of going the red or blue pill? Because those are the majorities. Those are the majorities, right? Those two parties. We feel like those are the only decision makers in America. There's no other majority. Look in any other state. You tell me that a party that is an end like the Green Party or the Marijuana Party, you can't tell me in any state that they have a majority in the Senate or a House. You can't. You have two choices, Republican or Democrat. Now tell me that's not fucked up. And then they want to do ranked choice voting in Minnesota, but they want to say that it's nonpartisan. How? When everybody sponsors, endorses candidates, if it's nonpartisan, then let's take out the endorsement process, because that matters. When you have idiots like Omar or unions, political PACs that fund these idiots. So you tell me, how do you change anything if you only have two choices? Or that's all you feel like you have? Because that's the way that our system is built. And every time we try to change that system, who fights it? It's not we the people. The elected officials do. Because corporations, their daddies, their puppet masters, no, they understand. Right? Because everything that they're doing has taken time to do. But it doesn't mean that the game is over with and that they've won. It just means that it's time to start fighting fire with fire. And everybody thinks that's pick up a gun. No, pick up a pen and pad and a book, nigga. That doesn't mean you got to go pick up a gun. Because you know what they hate? They hate it. You know what's the most dangerous thing in America? Not a nigga with a gun. A nigga that can think. That's what's scary. A nigga that can think. That's why I love that, how people team up and feel like because they're the masses that they're right. No, I love David and Goliath stories. I love this shit. I'll tell you right now, because there's one thing that, every time that I listen to Malcolm, right? And especially right before he died, because he knew he was going to die. He knew it, right? That's why, that's what's crazy. Because I'll tell you right now that, and I was just talking about this over the weekend. Like, I was out here ready to die for stupid shit. Dumbass shit. I was out here risking my life for people that I thought loved me, people that I thought cared about me, when the whole time all they were doing was using me. Because I'll tell you right now is that when I went to jail or prison, you know who was always there? My mama. All my day one niggas. It wasn't the niggas that was out here talking about we got you, nigga. Wasn't the motherfuckers out here talking about loyalty. Now we love you, nigga, because I'll tell you right now, love don't mean a motherfucking thing. Them words don't mean shit. Nigga, don't tell me, show me. I've learned the same thing in this movement shit. There's so much fake love out here. You know, that's one thing that I laugh when motherfuckers talking about, oh man, these streets love me. Nigga, them streets don't love nobody. Them streets don't love nobody. Just like this movement shit. That shit don't love nobody. It didn't love Malcolm. It didn't love Fred. It didn't love Martin. How many people have died in this shit? All for change. All for change. And yet we had niggas like Ben Crump, Al Sharpton, who literally get paid to do eulogies and do all these church services for victims of police brutality. And at the end of the day, they get paid for it. They bring in activists from all over the country, hand them big fat ass envelopes of cash. Shit's crazy. But yeah, we can't get change in these streets. We can't even get change in policies because in how many places have they made it where if you block the streets as a protester, that you're in the wrong now and the driver's in the right? Because I've literally lost people. You too. Thank you, Damone, for tuning in today, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. Peace and blessings. I want people to think about that. They are literally writing legislation to make it where it's not a crime if you're blocking the street peacefully and somebody uses their car and goes into the crowd, where the pedestrian is wrong and not the driver of the car. But yet, yeah, never mind it. Let me stop it, because police, that just shows you right there that it's when you're a police officer and you're in a car and it's not even coming at you, they can use that as, that car is a weapon and as self-defense. But yet we as people can't even. Just like even if somebody breaks into your home in Minnesota, they literally will lock your ass up before they'll lock the dude who robbed you. Especially if you whack them, all for protecting yourself. So where have we gone wrong? That's what I want to know. Where have we gone wrong of where there's all these guns out here that are out here illegally? People out here straw purchasing. You have switches. Like, the safety doesn't matter anymore. I've always wondered that, right? Because, people always talking about, oh, nigga, use a snitch. How is it snitching? Because here at the end of the day, what's crazy to me, right, is we'll call people snitches for doing the right thing, but yet y'all niggas out here will get paid by the government to snitch on your so-called homies. Y'all are literally paid confident informants and got to fill out 1099s every year. Boy, that's what I'm telling you, man. Once you become, I'll tell you right now, if people look at that shit in their police departments in their city, they have budgets for this shit. We as taxpayers, and that's what the most sickest part of this is, right? Because I just talked to my mom about this the other day. I said, Mom, you know what's crazy? Is your taxes we're literally paying to fuck over your kids and people from our community. Tell me that's not crazy. Our taxes, because what funds the police department? Taxes. Tell me that's not crazy. I literally, so when I've had to really think about that, because I see, certain people are, back in the news, like Mayan Burrell, who did all that time crime he didn't do. And then to be in the news like that, and they bring up, because our government is so, in our judicial system is so fucked up, that he's going to live with that tag. All because they don't want to do the right thing. And because Amy Klobuchar is a U.S. senator, they're not going to do the right thing. And that's sick, because that man literally has to walk that shit every day of his life. And every time that he does something, has to be demonized for something that he didn't do. And it's sick. All because our judicial system, our Supreme Court, doesn't see innocence as enough to overturn a conviction. And that's crazy as hell to me. So I already know from the get that we live in a fucked up ass system, right? And that people like Bobby Champion, Cedric Frazier, Robin Walmsley, Vitaw, they get paid because people been, if y'all want to call them whistleblowers, and that's crazy that they call them whistleblowers. Why do we have a name for people that are out there doing the right thing? Has anybody ever thought about that? That we literally have names for people that do the right thing. Call them whistleblowers. Tell me that's not, we don't live in a sick ass world. That people that do the right thing will talk shit about them. I don't understand that. I really don't. I really don't understand that. And I don't think I ever will. Because we'll uplift fake, but we look down on people that are real. That's what's crazy to me. That's what's crazy to me, that we were literally that. But you know what? Everything that's done in the dark always comes to light, right? Because you can't hide the truth. You can't hide the truth. Doesn't matter what you do, the truth will always come to the light. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that in 2024, that this is the year of the truth, right? This is the year of the truth. And we're seeing that in everywhere in America, right? In Chicago, New York. And I hate this so much, right? This is the part that fucks me up, because you have a lot of people paying attention, right? What's going on in Palestine. You got what's going on here in America with our open borders and immigration. And this is such a time for the people to rise, but yet we're finding ways to be divided because people don't want to do the right thing. So you have to sit here and go get your lawnmower, go get your weed whacker, so you can get the snakes out the fucking grass. Because that's what this summer is about, man. It's about getting the snakes out of the grass so that our community can thrive. And we're going to do that one block at a time. One block at a time. Because that's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take. One block at a time. It has to. I'll tell you like this, right? Do we want to live in a society where we think that it's okay to have 100 murders a year? Come on now. Literally. That's Minneapolis. 90 to 100. Philly, 3 to 4. Chicago, 5 to 6. Like, is that what we really want to? That's not normal. We weren't doing them type of numbers pre-COVID, so why are we doing them numbers now? Does anybody ever wonder that? Of why all of a sudden there's all these switches on the streets? And I'm not talking about the one you go get off a tree. I'm talking about the one that you put on the back of a gun. Right? It makes it that these little niggas have a deadly weapon of mass destruction in their fucking hands. If you've never heard a automatic, if you ain't never heard an AK, a machine gun, a MAC-10, we're living in times that we ain't ever seen before. History does repeat itself. And are we going to stand up and fight for what's right? Are we going to continue just looking the other way and allowing injustice to happen, allowing the trauma, allowing the brutality? Because we see it. We see it just like the same earlier last week. St. Paul Police Department killed a woman, Pepsi, rest in peace. That was a mental health situation. Yeah, I mean, she did have a gun, but it was a mental health situation. And I'm not sure what the whole dynamics of that situation was. You know what I'm saying? I just feel bad that the lady, for the family, I feel bad for her family. They called to get her help in a mental health situation, and now she's no longer here. And that happens damn near every day in America to poor communities. So who's going to fight for us? Because I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be the church. It's not going to be that's a 501(c)(3). It's not going to be anybody that's nonprofit. It's going to be we the people. It's not going to be a Democrat. It's not going to be Trump's platinum plan. I can tell you that right now. Because it doesn't matter if we get Trump, if Trump does become president, if you think anything is going to change locally in your areas like Chicago, that is ran predominantly by Socialists of America, the DSA branch of the Democrats, or it's the DFL itself and not one of their little brothers or sisters, as what they might call it. Yeah, Chicago's the same way. Philly, same way. How are we going to flip something red when most of the Republicans in our areas, when you hear them talk, you just look at them and be like, no, wait, I can't. I'm a conservative. I don't know about this Republican shit, because some of the shit that they, like Mark, like I said, I agree on with a lot of his policies. Our government is fucked up. There's no oversight. There's no accountability. And yet we never want to look at that. It's always, let's throw money at it. And yet we never get no results for that money. We never get no results. And that should bother people, that we don't get results for the billions of dollars that we've literally, our taxes, for violence interruption, or because we shouldn't be losing all these babies. We shouldn't be losing all these innocent children who are just out living their lives and trying to enjoy being a child. They shouldn't have to worry about people, attempting to sex traffic them or, human trafficking. Our kids shouldn't have to worry about that. They shouldn't have to worry about being sexually assaulted when they go to the park. We shouldn't have to worry about, some freakazoid coming to do something to our kids at school. They should be protected. They shouldn't have to worry about no school shooters. They shouldn't have to worry about parents. And I'm talking about Hopkins right now. Shouldn't be worried about parents trying to egg their kids into fighting for what, man? Like, is it literally that bad of where it's the first thing people want to do now is just fight or just shoot somebody when you're mad? Especially if they're telling the truth. Nigga, live your truth. Don't get mad because somebody has put it out there. No, go live your truth. Go be you. That's what's sick to me, man. Like, they're giving you the opportunity to be free. That's what I don't understand, right? I will never understand a lot of this. And that's what I call people so fake, man. Like, if you can't be true in who you are, how the fuck we supposed to? But that's what this shit is about, because they would rather follow behind blindly than to sit there and learn and educate themselves. Because I'll tell you right now, if a lot of people just picked up a book and read, you would see it for yourself if you would just read the bills, the legislation, right? And see it for yourself, because you would look at these people the same way I do, that they're crackheads. Like, damn, how doesn't the community see this? Like, how do they keep on falling for it? It's because y'all are undereducated. It's because y'all don't want to wake up and smell the coffee. You want to believe in this fairy tale story. And it's not a fairy tale. We're living in fucking reality. This isn't a Disney movie, right? This isn't. It's not a Disney movie. We are living in reality. In reality, because you're seeing Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto, that the video games that these kids play, out into the streets, where they can hook up a charger, a phone charger, and steal your car. Shit, I had the hot wire. I didn't have all that advantage. The fuck? Like, the motherfucker really had to go through it to steal a car. Shit, and if you didn't did it right, you'd get shocked. Shit. Now these niggas got all you need is an iPhone charger. Like, damn, that's crazy. And then you get away from the police. It's easy as hell nowadays, because most inner city areas, they can't chase you. Especially if you get to a certain speed. It's like, damn, where was all this shit when I was a criminal? Because they definitely make it easier for these niggas to get away. But with no accountability, that's the shit that trips me out, because I see all this shit that goes on in Minneapolis, man, over north. And it's like, damn, man, they was not allowing that type of shit. The police was out here fucking us up. Fucking us up. And yet I'm like, that shit is crazy as hell. But that's the type of America that we live in. That we're so desensitized to seeing homeless people, to seeing so-called people on the streets who are on drugs, running through the streets butt-ass naked, or doing the crappie flop in front of a store, or, just seeing all the trash everywhere. No, we shouldn't be okay with that. We should want to make it better. We should want to make it better. We should want to make the world a better place for everybody. That's why it doesn't matter where I'm at. If I'm in St. Paul, if I'm in Minneapolis, if I'm in Rochester, if I'm in Austin, if I'm in St. Cloud, I always try to give back some way, somehow. And it might be small, right? Might be small. But at least I've given back. And that's what it is. Pay it forward. I don't understand why people don't understand that. Or the solidarity, not charity. Because if you think of it as solidarity with this person, instead of looking at it as a charity case and trying to see them as your equal, instead of thinking that you're above them because they're in a situation that maybe they're in a fucked up situation. That's why I love about Reverend Tim Christopher, right? He's always seen me as an equal. Never seen me as somebody that, a criminal or a felon. He's always just seen me for who I am, right? I gotta love him for that. There's parts of that I hate, You know what I'm saying? But I not hate, I dislike, but I understand it because he's not God. He's not here to judge. So he's here to educate. He's here to empower. So I understand it, right? And I hate that it's got to be like that because we have to start calling out evil and the wrong if we're going to become better, if we're going to unite, if we're going to become that village. Because in a village, you shouldn't be scared to come out and hold somebody accountable. So I'm going to get off here because in 17 minutes or 15 minutes, the Senate House starts, and I want to watch that because, like I said, RCV, ranked choice voting, is coming up. We just talked about ERA. We also talked about ranked choice voting, and also the Minnesota Migration Act is coming up. So I hope people would go watch that if you're from Minnesota. I think people definitely need to pay attention to what is going on around them. And also, it's getting to the end of the session. So watch the North Star Act. They know that this is their one opportunity to get it passed. And I think it would be a big fuck you to the Republicans, especially when it came down to all for the simple fact of everything that is going on with Senator Nicole Mitchell. So watch that. And like I said, I don't know when I'll be back on. I got some shit to do. I'll probably be back on. I might do one more episode this week, but definitely will be back regularly Monday off a hiatus because at that point there will be 2 weeks until Operation Hug the Block. And I really, that's what I'll be focused on. It's talking about Operation Hug the Block, talking about solutions about surrounding Operation Hug the Block and how we can all come and unite and be as one. So with that being said, man, win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well. Y'all have a great one.
Urban conservative.